morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. This morning, I'd like to talk about intellectual freedom. And so the way that we're going to start this conversation is figuring out what the term intellectual freedom means. So I'd like for you to think about what does the word intellectual mean, and what does the word freedom mean, and what do those words mean together? Okay? I'm going to have you turn and talk to someone sitting next to you about those questions. What does intellectual mean? What does freedom mean? And what do they mean together? And I'm just going to walk around and listen to your conversations. Okay? And then when I ring the bell, we'll open the Padlet discussion, and you can answer on Padlet. Okay?
I think that it's too much.
Do you know what intellect is? No. So we've got the freedom part. Forrest. Okay. So intellectual has something to do with intelligence and freedom. So if you had to make an inference, what do you think that intellectual is? What are you guys talking about? All right, I got to listen to a few conversations. They sounded pretty good. Go ahead and open up the Padlet discussion in Blend. And what you're going to do is you can maybe see on the screen down here. Will you scroll up a little bit for me, Green? There is a little plus sign down here if you've never used Padlet. When you click on the plus sign, that's how you can add your discussion to the Padlet.
That's cool. Do you want us to add something to the Padlet right now?
Yep, you're going to add what you talked about with your partner. The question on the Padlet is, what is the definition of intellectual freedom? So you're just going to add your discussion. You can respond to other people, and we're going to build a definition for intellectual freedom together.
How do you like...
Can I copy and paste this?
It's already posted. Yep.
Oh, wow.
So now it's okay. So if you want to add a comment, you can press the plus symbol. You can also like or comment on other people's comments. So here you can heart someone's comment if you think it's a good comment, something that you agree with. You can add a comment onto someone else's comment. Okay, so I see we think that it has something to do with your brain. Who posted that comment? Okay, what made you think that it has something to do with your brain?
Well, we all thought, me, Lucy, and Dylan, we all thought that it had something to do with your brain or something.
What word in intellectual freedom made you think that it had something to do with your brain? Intellect, okay, intellectual. What about that other part of this term? What about the freedom part? What does freedom mean? Let's see. Okay, we decided that freedom is that everyone needs to... Who can add to this? What is freedom?
Freedom is when you can do things that you should do.
Okay, so freedom is like, what's another word for freedom?
The right to do something.
Okay, so you have the right to do something. So if we put those together, Hiram, I appreciated what I heard you say when I listened in on you and your and Freya's conversation. What did you say that intellectual freedom means? If we put like knowledge or your brain and your right to do something, we put those together?
That you're allowed to read whatever you want, whenever you want.
Okay, so that's exactly right. Intellectual freedom means, or is the idea that you have the right or the freedom to choose what you would like to read. Give me a thumbs up to the side or down. If you agree, feel neutral, or disagree with the idea of intellectual freedom. Do you think that you should have the freedom to choose what you would like to read? Looking for thumbs. Thank you.
Who has an opinion?
Awesome.
Jordan, you have an opinion? Jacob, Hiram?
So we are mostly, it seems like, in agreement that we should have the freedom to choose what it is that we would like to read. Unfortunately, there are people that don't agree with the idea of intellectual freedom, and they want to decide for us what it is that we should be allowed or not allowed to read. So, right now what I'd like for you to do is exit the Padlet, and I am going to give you a handout. You can also access the handout on the Blend course. So if you'll go from the Padlet to, and it's called Banned Books. It's the next
Next button.
button, the second one. That's okay. So, every year, the American Library Association collects data on books that are challenged or banned in libraries. So, this is a list of books from the American Library Association's top 10 most challenged books over the last 5 years. So I want you to take a look at the books on this list. And again, you're going to talk to the people around you about the books on this list. And there are some guiding questions at the top of the handout. Which materials would you expect to find in our library? Which titles should be allowed or removed? And why or why not? Is there anything surprising on this handout or on this list of banned books? Take a second to look. You can look on the computer or you can look on the handout. I gave you a piece of paper in case you wanted to jot down some notes or some reactions. Yeah, let me see. So you can scroll down. It's in the same. Go to next. There you are. All right, let me hear your thoughts. Let me hear your reactions. What kind of books are you noticing on the list? Ready?
Drama.
Okay, drama, right? By a very popular author, Raina Telgemeier, was one of the top 10 most challenged books in the year 2016. Is that surprising to you? Is that unsurprising to you? That there are people that would say, you know what? Drama should not be allowed to be read by school students, elementary, middle school, or high school. We're going to take it out of the library and you are not allowed to read that book. Does that make sense to you? Is that weird? Do you agree?
There's already drama.
Sorry, what?
There's already drama in the fifth grade, so.
Okay. So, let's keep going down the list. What other titles were surprising?
George.
George.
One called George.
Okay, and what's that book about? What does it say?
It's about George that wants to play in the Charlottes in her 4th grade class, more introduction to Charlotte's Web. The problem is her teacher won't let her because George is a boy, but George isn't to let the squash her dream.
Okay, so go ahead. Okay. So the question is, George is about a 4th grader, right? So a person that's a year younger than you are. And George in this story is struggling with her gender identity. Should you be allowed to read a book about a 4th grader who's struggling with their gender identity? What about this book? Do you think that a book about 2 teenage boys in a kissing marathon should be in a public school library?
No.
Okay.
Maybe.
I heard a no, I heard a maybe. Why don't you turn and talk? We're gonna do that again. Turn and talk. I'm gonna listen in on your conversations and then we'll share out. Lucy, what do you think? What's your gut reaction? Okay. So do you think that it should be allowed in like an elementary school library or maybe just middle school and high school?
I think, well, because it's not appropriate. I think it'll be.
Okay. I'm listening.
Because it's not bad to have, it's not bad to always from other people.
I agree.
But I don't think anyone would check it out.
Because they're kind of older than us.
All right. So I'm hearing some really good comments that I want everybody to hear. So Lucy, will you share with everyone the last thing that you said to me?
I said that in order to know if it should be banned, I would need to know more about it.
Okay, that's a really important point. A lot of times when books are challenged or banned, people that haven't even read the book are the ones that are bringing up those challenges or trying to ban those books. So that's a really healthy perspective that Lucy brought up, is in order to make a judgment about a book, we need to have read the book, we need to know more about it. Vincenzo?
I think that this book should be every right in elementary school because if 2 boys kiss, it's freedom, so like they can do whatever they want.
Okay, sure. So this book is about 2 boys kissing. It's about men in the 80s who have died of AIDS. Is that a suitable book to have in an elementary school where a 1st grader might check it out?
No.
Okay.
It should
So
be like 4th grade,
so
5th grade, or like in middle school.
so maybe this book would be suitable for a middle school or a high school library, but maybe not elementary school, right? Is that still censorship? Is that supporting our intellectual freedom?
Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe. It's a tough question. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we can always visit middle schools. Like we can have books anywhere.
Okay, excellent. All right, let's see. Oh, the next one is a really interesting title, I think. Little Bill. It's a series. It's kind of old, so you might not be familiar with it, but it was written by Bill Cosby. And the synopsis says, when a new boy in his 2nd grade class tries to get other students to play a game that involves saying the meanest things possible to one another, Little Bill shows him a better way to make friends. Is it surprising to you that this book made the list of most banned books?
Yes. Like.
Okay. Do you have any idea why someone might not want students to read this book? Forrest?
Well, I mean, I might understand why it might be like not good for like elementary school.
Okay, but it's about a 2nd grader, so
I know, but it's like he's saying like meanest and
Okay.
like curse words. And stuff.
okay, so there might be some inappropriate language. Uh-huh.
I was gonna say the first.
Okay. Lucy, did you have a different comment?
I think that they might not want the kids to read it because then the kids might start saying mean things.
Okay.
Oh yeah, that's true.
That could be as well. Let's kind of flip this situation and think about it from the perspective of 2 boys kissing. We decided that that book might be most appropriate in a high school or a middle school because it's about teenagers, right? Would a book about a second grader be appropriate for a high school library?
It doesn't really matter the age of the kids.
Okay, maybe let's put it this way. Do you think that a high schooler would be interested in checking out and reading a little Bill book, reading about a second grader?
No.
Probably not. If you were a librarian in a high school and you had to pick books to put in your library, is this a book that you would pick to put in your high school library? Probably not, because nobody would check it out, right? Okay.
You should get rid of it and it'd be a waste.
Yeah, exactly. It would be a waste of money. It would be a waste of space. It's maybe not inappropriate, but high schoolers would probably not be interested in this book, right? Okay. So if you go ahead first, I'm sorry.
It might be good for like middle schoolers.
Maybe middle schoolers.
Like
Or
lower grade middle school.
and we're gonna look, if you go down, scroll down past the handout to the button that says next, it'll take you to the slideshow presentation. So go all the way to the bottom, scroll all the way down, use this scroll bar, and scroll all the way down.
Now, there's the books explained. Now it's explained why these books are banned. Wait, do you agree with all of these others?
So that's what the presentation is going to show us. It's going to give us a definition, and then it's going to tell why these books were challenged or banned. Sure.
Intellectual freedom is?
Mhm.
So I think it's like freedom of knowledge.
Yes.
The knowledge that you get. You should be free to get knowledge.
We should be free to get knowledge.
For me, it's knowledge.
So Hiram mentioned this before, but I want to make sure, Forrest, that everybody hears what you had to say. So everybody make sure that you're listening to Forrest. A nice loud voice, Forrest. What did you say intellectual freedom means?
I think intellectual freedom means like the freedom to obtain or get knowledge.
That's exactly right. So it's the freedom to obtain knowledge. So let's look at the definition. What is a challenged versus a banned book? Okay? And this is taken from the American Library Association's website. It says, a challenge is an attempt to remove or restrict materials based on the objections of a person or group. So basically that means someone comes into the library and they see Harry Potter. And they say, you know what? The students in this school should not be allowed to read Harry Potter because it's about witchcraft. I want the librarian, I want the principal, I want the superintendent, the school board, take that book off the shelf. Elementary school students are not allowed to read about witchcraft.
What?
Why?
Hey, it's happened. A banning,
That's happened?
a banning is the removal of those materials. So a challenge is when somebody says, I don't think that you should read this. The book becomes banned when it actually gets taken off the shelf.
That's what?
So the next sentence says, challenges do not simply involve a person expressing a point of view. Rather, they are an attempt to remove material from the curriculum or library, thereby restricting the access of others. As such, they are a threat to freedom of speech and choice. So, again, just like Hiram said, just like Forrest said, when people challenge or ban books, that is restricting our freedom of speech and our freedom of choice. All right? So let's go to the next slide and we will look at why some of these books were challenged or why they were banned, and then where you can find them in our school district's libraries. Can I have somebody read the slide for drama? Vincenzo, read me the reasons and then where we can find them in our school libraries. And you can read on your computer or off the screen, it doesn't matter.
Drama in an illustrated environment. Okay. Reasons. Challenge because it includes LGBT characters, was deemed sexually explicit, and was considered to have an offensive political viewpoint. Location in AIDS, libraries,
AISD,
and
I'm sorry, school district.
libraries, elementary, middle school, and high school libraries.
So this book by Raina Telgemeier was challenged or banned because it includes LGBT characters.
It is still banned.
mean?
Lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender.
What?
Okay?
That's
So
not fair because everybody can be different from other people.
I'm glad that you said that. Thank you. So, because librarians in our school district believe in intellectual freedom and our First Amendment rights to free speech, you can find drama by Raina Telgemeier in elementary school libraries like ours, in middle school libraries, and in high school libraries. Okay, let's look at the next book. Who would like to read? Okay, back here.
George, written by Alex Gina. Reasons. Challenge because it includes a transgender child and the sexuality was not appropriate at elementary levels. Location in AISD libraries, elementary, middle school, and high school libraries.
Okay, so again, are you noticing a pattern about why these books are being challenged? Let me see, Greta.
Because they have a transgender or lesbian.
Okay, so the first two books are being challenged because they have LGBT characters or gender non-conforming characters, right? But again, you can find George in elementary, middle school, and high school libraries in Austin ISD.
That's not even
Okay? Two boys kissing. Go ahead, Tina.
Reason challenged by because it's covered in is an image of two boys kissing, and it was considered to include sexual explicit LGBT content. Location in AISD, middle school and high school.
Okay. So librarians in the district were on the same page. They agreed with the conversation that we had. And this book is probably most suitable because of the age of the characters. They're teenagers. For middle school and high school students. You cannot find this book in Austin ISD elementary schools. Okay, which is, again, what we talked about, right? Forrest, did you have a comment or a question?
Well, I noticed that people were like judging this book because they said, and it was considered
Okay, that's an excellent point.
to include that stuff.
Yep, exactly. So everybody has different opinions, right? And what one person thinks is sexually explicit LGBT content might just be LGBT content to another person, right? One person might consider kissing explicit and another person might not. So I think that's a very important point to make.
Like, I don't even think they even read the book. I think they just looked at the cover and went, oh, this book's considered sexually explicit.
I agree.
I'm going to challenge this book.
That's a great point. All right, next. Okay, Little Bill. Who wants to read about Little Bill? Lucy?
Little Bill series written by Bill Cosby and illustrated by Barnett B. Reason challenged because of criminal sexual allegations against the author and location in ASC libraries, elementary and middle school.
So what this slide is telling us is that this book was challenged not because of anything in the book. It was challenged because people don't like the author.
What? That's stupid.
Right? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, does
Because it
it?
could be a really good book. I'm like, oh,
Yeah, it could teach important lessons to our elementary school students, but because people don't like the author, they've decided that no one should read this book.
why? That's really because they just didn't like the author. It makes no sense. Yeah.
And again, just like we talked about, this book can be found in elementary and middle school libraries.
Well,
So
we are on the right page today.
probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense to have this in a high school library. Probably not a whole lot of high schoolers would be interested in checking out this book. Okay, and I think that we have one more. Okay.
Yes.
I'll read about this one. It's called Fun Home by Alison Bechdel. Okay, it's a graphic novel. And the reason that it was challenged or banned was for violence and other graphic images. So this is a book that you can only find in high school libraries in our school district. Okay? All right. So now what I would like to do is have you close your laptops. And we are going to, we're going to take a little opinion poll. Okay, so we're going to use some technology that might be new to you. Okay, if you're already familiar with this technology, you can help the people around you. This is called clickers. Okay, and you are going to see some banned books on the screen, banned or challenged books. Again,
That's not a library.
it is in our library. This. So these books are different from the books on the handout or the slideshow presentation, but they also came from the list of top 10 most challenged books. Okay, so here's what you're going to do. I'm going to give everybody a card. It's called a clicker. Okay, and it has A, B, C, or D, right? And if you think scary stories, and unfortunately you can't pick more than one, but you can read the title, you can read a synopsis, and you can read the reasons that it was banned, and then you can decide, does this book belong in an elementary school library? And so you would hold up the part of the card that says A. Does it belong in a middle school library? So you would hold up the part of the card that says B. Does it belong only in a high school library? So you hold up the part that says C. Or should it be banned from school libraries altogether? And then you would hold up the side of the card that says D. And then I'm going to take my phone and I'm going to scan the room. I'm going to scan everybody's clicker. And then here we'll be able to see a graph of all of our opinions in real time.
That's awesome.
It's pretty cool,
I know,
right?
right?
It's confusing too.
It's okay, I'm gonna help
That's
you.
technology
So-
shaping the world.
You are going to, you know what, I might have, well, here, we'll save that half.
Okay.
Because these are the first. I don't know if that matters, but there you go. Okay, so I'm going to give you a second to look at the information on the card, find out where the letter A is, find out where the letter B is, find out where the letter C is, and find out where the letter D is, so you know how to register your opinion. All right, so take a look at your card. Okay? If you want to vote for A, the card should always be facing away from you so that my phone can read it. Okay? If you want to vote for A, then the letter A should be at the top of the card. Right? And A is always going to be for elementary school. If you want to vote for B, which is always going to be middle school, then you should hold your card facing me with the letter B at the top. The letter C at the top should be for high school, and the letter D at the top means that the book should not be allowed in any school libraries. Okay? All right. So, scary stories. Okay? It contains haunting stories and scary songs that feature ghosts, monsters, and creepy endeavors, including selections entitled Old Woman, All Skin and Bone, Cold as Clay, The Ghost with the Bloody Fingers, and others. The reasons that it was banned: it was unsuitable for the age group, which means that it was inappropriate for that age of student, and for violence. So think about, and remember, you can only choose one, right? Does it make sense to have this book in elementary school libraries, middle school, high school, or banned from school libraries? And if you vote, if you vote for if you vote for elementary school, then we're going to assume that you think it's okay for middle and high school, right?
Yeah.
If you vote for middle school, then we're going to assume that you think it's okay for middle and high school. And if you vote for high school, then we're going to think it's only okay for high school. Does that make sense? Okay, let's try it out and see what happens.
Mine's A.
And you have to hold your card still. There you go.
So here we go.
Don't move around. Just hold them still. Look at that. You see how cool that is? Rockin', rockin', rockin'.
Whoa. I guess 21.
No, it's whatever number you are.
I'm guess 23.
Okay, so can we see the graph?
I guess right. How do you know? Because it says it on the card right there.
Okay, so most of us think that this should be allowed in elementary, middle, and high school libraries. Okay? One person thinks that the book should be banned. Okay? It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter?
We're just
As long as-
looking at numbers, right? Almost the same number think that it's probably mostly appropriate for middle and high school.
Yeah.
Okay? Let's look at the next one.
Everybody's to zero.
The Hunger Games. Okay? So think about,
Best book in school. Well, it's not from the school, but it's the best book.
think about what age is appropriate. You can hold up your clicker and we will get some data. Oh, ready? Okay. Make sure that it's facing the phone.
There's no guess.
Rose, turn yours toward me a little bit. There we go. Forrest, there we go. Thank you.
Yay, I'm here. Guess 6 has a
Sure, I got all these.
Guess all of you beat it. He's the best.
All right. So obviously, The Hunger Games is a popular book. Now, do you think
Hey,
that
Forrest, no judging.
How is it?
Do you think that this information has anything to do with the fact that we are in a 5th grade class and we are thinking about going to middle school next year?
Because elementary school is also.
Because elementary school includes kindergarten and 1st grade, right?
Can I read it? Can I read it?
Yeah, go ahead.
16-year-old Katniss Everdeen accidentally becomes a
Contender.
contender in the annual Hunger Games and grade competition hosted by the Capitol where young and boys and girls pitted against one another and television fight to the death from
From Follett, so that's a publishing company. Okay, so the reasons was, which I don't remember this, but maybe there's a religious viewpoint, and it was unsuited to the age group. So personally, as a librarian, when I think about whether or not I'm going to put a book in our library, I think about the age of the characters. So, how old is Katniss? She's 16, which is what age group? It's high school, right? And I think that 5th graders can read up. I think most people can read up. Like, you can read about characters that are older than you within a few years, right?
Yeah.
However, I have to think about, this is a story about high school age students in a fight to the death,
Oh.
right? And so for me, I think if you want to go to the bookstore and get it with your parents, or I think if you want to go to the public library and check it out from the public library, that's totally cool. But I don't think that a book about 16-year-olds in a televised fight to the death is the best story to have on the shelf where a 3rd grader could pick it up, right? Hiram, do you have a question or a comment?
I was just going to take into consideration that
What about that?
it is a
Maybe I'll take
chapter
it.
book,
Yep.
and I'm just going to say
Desiree.
that kinder, first, and 2nd, and a few 3rd graders are probably not going to read that.
True. It's above their reading level anyway, right?
But
best book ever.
But this is where I'm going to throw in, friends. We do have students in this school who, at the age of 5 in kindergarten and in 1st grade, who could read these books, but this type of reading with large chapter books could handle all the words, but they necessarily should be reading it for their development.
the ideas are above their development, even if the words on the page are not.
Yeah.
Right? So, like I said, my sort of compromise for intellectual freedom is if you want to read this book, Vincenzo, I'm not going to say like, uh-oh, I saw your copy of The Hunger Games, give me that, I'm taking it away. Fifth graders should not be allowed to read a book about 16-year-olds who kill each other on TV. If you want to read that book, that's fine with me, but you're going to have to work a little bit harder to get a copy. So that's my personal compromise for intellectual. So we're going to have one more quick turn and talk, okay, about some questions, okay? Why is intellectual freedom important, or why does it matter? Okay? Should a book ever be banned or have restricted access? And who has authority to make these decisions? Who's in charge of saying what books you can read or not read? Okay? So talk to someone sitting next to you. I'm going to walk around and listen in, and then I'll take a couple quick shares. Reading. Is intellectual freedom important?
Oh yeah, that one should be more like a
Yeah, I'll take a Alright, y'all, I really appreciate your participation this morning. Let's share out real quick. Okay, is intellectual freedom important? Yes. Okay, why does intellectual freedom matter? Why do we care?
Because you should be able to learn like special lessons from books.
Excellent. Okay?
First of all, you should read because it's good for you. And second of all, you should know like what's going on and like what's in the book. If you want to read it and it looks cool to you, you should read it.
Excellent. One more.
You should be, because reading is good, like Vincenzo said, and so you should be able to read what you want.
Excellent. Okay, so who should have the authority or who should be in charge of making the decisions about what books we are allowed to read?
You.
Me? Okay, so the librarian obviously makes some of those choices. Freya? Your okay, good. Your parents. When you're a certain age, your parents obviously have some role in those decisions. Greta?
Somebody who's read the book.
Somebody who's read the book. So I think that's a really important takeaway too, is that in order to share your opinion, you should really know what's in the book, right? Lucy?
I think you should.
Excellent. And right, so that's the final takeaway, is the person who should be making decisions about what they are reading is
The librarian.
yourself, right?